Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies, it's just a fact and it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Thank you so much. Today we're jumping back at r/NeckbeardStories, continuing some whatnots with Squirrelbeard. Yes indeed, sort of excited to get into it, you know? First part left me hanging, wanting a little bit more, and part 3 honestly doesn't give me all that much more. It seems like a whole lot of backstory and building and stuff, but there is a beard involved, which is always good news. My saving grace is the beards. Isn't that weird? Not live streaming on Twitch, as I haven't been recently, but wifey is streaming on her Twitch, Mrs._ReddX. If you haven't gone to visit her over there, I would appreciate it. Me and her, we hang out, play some video games every night. It's a pretty good time, and she just got affiliated, so show her some love. I appreciate that. We'll get some additional plugs and disclaimers out of the way, and then we will dive right into some of this r/NeckbeardStories cringe. The Ballad of Squirrelbeard, Part 3, Movie Beard Interlude. Yeah, it's just a little bit of an interlude, you know? We had a movie beard before. I think that's in the short saga or something. Like one of the best performing thumbnails on the channel. I'll probably just end up recycling it for this one. How about that? There you go. That was the thumbnail, okay? So hello, kind reader. Hi, is Emerald Aussie. I appreciate the upvotes. As this is my first series of posts, I wasn't sure that anyone would care, and honestly, I'm still unsure that anyone cares. What a mood. But I enjoy writing this out, so I figured I would share, and hopefully you are all enjoying the reading. I definitely think people care. It's been covered a few times on a few different channels, so yes, indeed, safe to say, thousands care. I enjoyed the Wholesome Award, that was cute. This tale will not stay wholesome, unfortunately. If you haven't, you should read part 1 and 2 for the setup, which I read all in one video, so that's why we're on part 3 with only one previous video. Got it? Good. Edit! Edit. Thank you to ReddX for picking up my story and for telling me about Moonhorse reading it. For Moonhorse's reading, click over there, and ReddX's reading, that's down in the description. I didn't know that you didn't realize Moonhorse had read it. That's interesting. But yeah, Mooney, he a good guy, you know what I'm saying? I'll give him the plug, that's fine. This tale covers my year 3 and 4 of high school. Why? Mostly because I didn't actually see Squirrelbeard for this entire time. Although, out of sight does not mean out of mind. That's right, because you in that heavy puppy love. This tale focuses more on Beetle and a bloke that we will call Movie Beard, and it sets up the next story post-high school life. All right, so buckle in. Not much Squirrelbeard, but that's okay. We get a substitute beard for the semester. I'll take it. The cast, OP, 16 or 17 years old. This story covers years 11 and 12 of high school. After everything in year 10, I was not nearly as trusting, but I was still naive and abused and in need of love. I had also decided it was not worth it and shut everyone out, including the few friends that I had. So you gotta question the things that your brain is telling. If you're in need of love, then hang on to your friends, you know? Brain lies. Brain always lies. Question it, you know? I know it's hard at 16 or 17 though. I was still in love with Squirrelbeard, even after everything, and I had thrown myself into the role of being the perfect trophy daughter, which made me even more miserable. I was not a happy or good person. I'd become an editor of the school paper, continued singing in local malls, and even joined choir. Okay, I'll believe you on the not happy part, but I do believe that you're a good person. A good person wouldn't put themselves through all of this stuff for the benefit of somebody else, you know? We've also got Squirrelbeard, of course, 18/19 years old, still living in the city about 6 hours away from me, which I will call Cityville, the city of Townsville. He was recovering from the upheaval after Crazy Beard's fake pregnancy had been exposed. We continued to talk online and maintained our friendship. He does not actually appear in person in this story, but his presence is felt through the entire thing. Well, that's pretty ominous, isn't it? Beetle is a 17/18-year-old year 4 graduate teenage hippie, my best friend, the true love of my life, although that was unknown then, my current husband, but at this time I had no thoughts of romance. I was far too in love with Squirrelbeard, and Beetle, he was in love with another girl, which was Cowgirl, absolute country bumpkin that was Beetle's long-distance girlfriend, later turned abusive fiancé. She doesn't appear too much in this saga, but Beetle's relationship with her was why he sympathizes with my quote-unquote love for Squirrelbeard, and Cowgirl is spoken of, so I will include her here. Yeah, we're bulking out the cast list today, all right. Raven, schoolmate in my year that had been in school with me since year 4 in primary. It wasn't until year 12 that we became friends. She fancied herself a goth/vampire and could have easily become a legbeard, but she went the goth/emo route instead, which is how we managed to hold on to a friendship. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some goth legbeards before. I'm not convinced that being goth or emo completely like precludes you from being legbeard. It is pretty close. Never mind. It's a breakdown for another day. All right, honey. That's a schoolmate in my year that was absolutely super sweet. She was part of the friend group that Beetle and I hung out with in my year 11. Marine, schoolmate that's older than me. He starts the story in year 12 and by the end has enlisted in the Marines. He is Honey's boyfriend and Movie Beard's best friend. Well, you know what they say, birds of a feather. I swear I'm probably not going to remember half these people. This is a beefy cast list indeed today. Finally, we get a blurb about our beard. Just when all hope was lost. Movie Beard was a schoolmate that was a year above me, worked at the local movie theater, and still does 20 plus years later, last I checked. Oh my God. I hope he really enjoys that job. 2 decades of your life? Wow, man. He thought it was a very cool job, and he had a crush on me, much to my chagrin. Stepmonster, my stepmother that was generally a monster to me, but in this tale, she was my savior. It was a rare moment, but also nice. Is this copy-pasted from the last one? In the last tale, she was your savior. What's going on here? I guess we'll see if she saves OP again. Biological father is, my biological father. Abusive a-hole that saw me as something to control, not as a person, not my dad. I had a wonderful dad, R.I.P., but that was not this man. Mom is my mom. Yep, sure enough. A true angel that tried to save me from abuse, but being a stubborn teenage girl, I did not make that easy. Seems to be how it goes a lot of the time. Kids get them hormones in them and they just off and running out into the streets. Dad, not my bio father. He married my mom when I was 6, and by the time I lived through the horror of living with biological father, I realized that Dad was truly my dad. At 23, I changed my last name from biological father to Dad's to symbolize who I truly thought of as my dad. Dad was a great man, and I miss him dearly. He passed in 2019. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm surprised it gets a little shout out in the cast list, you know? Why not? We seem to be beefing it out today, so I guess we'll have to see how many actually apply. Probably they all do, but I don't know if I'll remember them. And now let's continue this saga. So as I said at the end of part 2, I should have thanked the gods that Squirrelbeard and Crazybeard were out of my life and had moved on. And I was thankful that Crazybeard was out of my life, but teenage, quote-unquote, love does not let go so easily. And so, even though by all logic, I should have seen Squirrelbeard for who he was at this point, I didn't. Because as I said, 16-year-old me believed that he was the love of my life and my soulmate. Can you feel the cringe? I mean, I believe in soulmates. I believe in love. Not necessarily a cringy thing as far as I'm concerned. Love is beautiful. Love with the beard, however, yeah, that's pretty cringe. I will grant you that one. So let me start by recapping the summer between my years 10 and 11. Toward the end of year 10, I'd gotten my license, as well as a brand spanking new candy apple red sports car. Bam, bam, bam! Freedom on a plate! This was not my choice. I wanted a used red Jeep Cherokee, But biological father wanted his trophy daughter to have a car that he could brag about, and nothing says class and money like getting your blonde 16-year-old daughter the traditional candy apple red sports car. I mean, okay, you wanted the Jeep, it's a little ungrateful, isn't it? I mean, I hate to presume too much, but it's hard to get mad at a dude that buys his 16-year-old kid a car outright, you know? Of course, he's not really doing it for her, he's doing it for himself, but I don't know, maybe a thank you's in order. That summer, I enjoyed having the freedom to drive around to my heart's content. I was no longer trapped at home. I could finally go do whatever I wanted, until disaster hit. One weekend on the way home from a family gathering, a few hours away from the town I lived in, my family was in a car accident. It was a drunk driver that decided to do a U-turn on the highway. Jesus. By the time biological father realized what the drunk driver was doing, it was too late. We hit him going 95 kilometers, 60 miles per hour, and in those moments before we hit, I knew there was no way to stop. At the speed we were going, I truly thought that this was it for me. I braced myself to die as we made impact. I mean, 60 miles per hour, is it really that fast? Yeah, probably. Human body was not designed to go 60 miles per hour. Somehow, I didn't die. No one did. And the police were shocked because of the state of the vehicle that biological father had been driving. The police drove up expecting to be handling a fatal accident. All in all, we were way past lucky. Biological father messed up his knee and ultimately needed knee surgery. My little sister ended up with a cut above her eye, and I ended up banged up by the airbag and biting my tongue, which caused it to swell up and made me unable to talk, let alone sing, for several weeks. It sucked, but considering what could have happened, it wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. That's a miracle, isn't it? No broken bones, no nothing. Everybody just got out of this car and walked away. Yeah. That's divine intervention is what that is. So yeah, we were all okay, except for the trauma. To this day, I am a terrible passenger. My husband takes great care when driving me anywhere because I'm jumpy as hell. I never wanted to drive again after that accident. Obviously, I had to because I had to be able to get places. My stepmonster eventually forced me back into the driver's seat, and I learned to be okay with driving. Although to this day, I will avoid being the one to drive if I can help it at all. This whole incident just added to my already intense trauma. There's also a story in there where I was cutting to try to not binge after eating. My voice instructor had busted me and told me that throwing my food up would damage my voice, and I loved singing too much. Binge after, I think that's purging after eating. But yeah, either way, not a good situation to be in. This is going to some dark places, I feel. Stepmonster caught me cutting and threatened to tell biological father if I didn't tell him. So I asked for him to help with my depression, and he told me I was too young to know depression, and it was a sick cry for attention. And then he sent me to the corner for acting like a child. Too young to know depression, bro. Just because somebody's experience is something that you've gone through and you survived doesn't mean that it's nothing. Maybe try listening to your children. Maybe try providing them with a therapist if it's needed. There's really so much more he could have done, but he just kind of wrote it off. Of course, there's more to all that story, but you get the idea, and that is for another day, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to go there. Needless to say, by the time year 11 started, I was not in a good place. The first day of school, I had lunch, which involved me not actually eating, but not wanting to be in a doorway again. So I sat not eating at a bench on the far side of the school, away from everyone else. This was a spot that the few friends I used to have once hung out, but they had since joined clubs that met at lunch, so it was a great spot for me to be alone. I mean, if you miss them, you could go join the club or something like that. God, them teenage years is wild, ain't they? You can like feel the angst dripping off the screen. I'll just go to the far end of the campus to be alone with my thoughts. I start with all this backstory, not to make excuses for what happened next, but just to explain where my 16-year-old mind was at. Is all this gonna come up later? Do we need to be taking notes? So, day 2 of school, I headed back to the aforementioned bench, which I had most certainly claimed the day before, and I was so shocked to find a boy sitting there that I had never seen before. This caught me off guard for 2 reasons. One, I'd been going to the school with most of these kids since primary school, so I knew most everyone. And 2, this boy was on my bench. Mine! I had rightfully claimed it, and it was my refuge from all the drama and pain that was high school. High school is a serious place. These problems matter. It seems to kind of write off what I said before about it actually being serious. You know, it does seem to write off my earlier statement about, you know, it actually being serious. But you have to see it from a 16-year-old's perspective. This is the only life experience that they have so far, so it does feel like the be-all, end-all. That's why I recommend going to therapy. You get in therapy, the therapist kind of puts it all into perspective. Like, hey, high school doesn't last forever. You're going to be fine. Maybe it's not worth having a fight over the bench. This new boy dared to come along and displace me? The nerve. I walked over to him and looked down at him and said, "Who are you? And why are you sitting on my bench?" I'm not proud of it, but yeah, that is what I said. Trying to punk him for the bench? Yeah, okay. The boy looked up at me and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm new here. My name's Beetle." I looked at him and pondered his statement for a moment. "You're new?" I asked. I did have sympathy for the new kids. I had gone to a different school in a different state for a few months in primary before coming back to my hometown, and I hated it. You gotta become the funny kid to survive. That's how it worked out for me. My family moved every like 3 or 4 years, and I'm no worse for the wear. It's fine, mostly. I nodded at the boy and said, "I guess you can stay. I'm OP." I sat on the far side of the bench, hoping that Beetle would take the hint and sit in silence and leave me alone. He did not. "Thanks for letting me sit here. Sorry I intruded," Beetle said. "It's fine," I murmured. "So it's my second day here. I'm from different state," he said. "Cool," I said, uninterested. What do you like to do?" he asked. I sighed. "I write for the school paper and I sing." This is just like that meme that I saw. It's like, this dude's like, "Oh, the test was hard." He's like, "Yeah, sure. I like your new haircut. Yeah, whatever." And then it shows him going back home and playing video games by himself in a dark room. Come on, he's just trying to build the bridge. Let him build the bridge. Bless Beetle for being persistent. Beetle's eyes lit up when Opie mentioned that she sings, and he said, "I love music. What bands do you like? I love classic rock. The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Janis Joplin, stuff like that." This caught my interest. While I did like certain pop music, namely Backstreet Boys and Mandy Moore, I mostly hated other current music and much preferred classic and 80s rock. Oh, that good old dad rock, isn't it? My dad was a radio DJ and had been since the 70s, so I literally grew up in radio stations. I love those bands. Love 80s rock too. Bon Jovi, Poison, Winger, those types. I like Bon Jovi too, but I don't know much of their music aside from what comes on the radio, Beetle said. Oh, you're a Bon Jovi fan? Name 3 albums right now. Oh my God, they have such a great catalog. When all my cousins were crazy over New Kids in the late 80s, I was all about Bon Jovi, I said, as I started on about their greatest albums and how they had broken away from the hairband stereotype and continued to produce such great music. Beetle was actually interested and then talked about the Beatles, and he told me more than I thought I ever wanted to know about the Beatles, but by the end of lunch, Beetle and I had officially become best friends. Isn't it weird how music can do that? Just crash down the walls, open up the gates. Oh, we both like punk rock? You must not be a total piece of trash. What a leap to make. But again, I guess it's high school. This is all we had to go on. To this day, I'm not sure why Beetle didn't tell me to just screw off and walk away, but I am eternally grateful that he didn't. Beetle and I became inseparable from that point on. He was in year 12, so we didn't have any classes together, but aside from that, we were together. He came to my performances. Every weekend he was at my house. He was my solace. He came from an abusive home as well, and so he needed an escape. And when he was at my house, biological father wouldn't come down on me nearly as much. We saved each other, and for the first time, I had a true best friend. See, look at that. You see this whole thing blossoming? These two beautiful kids, you know they're gonna make it. Oh, but Squirrelbeard is still lurking in the background. That's right. You make me love this couple. Ship it so hard. And then you slap the hope out of my hand. So yeah, where does Squirrelbeard come in? Well, he was around this entire time, mostly on AIM. Ah, remember the days of personalized away messages? Yeah, mine was AFK. I would talk to Squirrelbeard nearly daily. I was so in love with him. I couldn't wait until nighttime to talk to him about my day and tell him everything that happened. He seemed interested, and so in my mind, that meant that he must like me. I mean, after all, the whole crazy beard thing happened because he was going to dump her for me. I just had to finish high school so I could go and be with him. Oh yes, the fairy tale beard fantasy. Don't do it. Oh. It was sappy and disgusting when I would talk about him. Beetle related because he had a squirrel beard of his own in the form of Cowgirl. She was his on-again, off-again girlfriend from his home state, and she was just as toxic to Beetle as Squirrelbeard was to me, although neither of us realized that at this time. Another thing about Beetle is that he was more social than me. This meant that before long, I had a friend group, and my friend group consisted of Honey, Marine, and Movie Beard. It's just a classic story, you know, extrovert adopting the introvert. And also, I'm excited to see the beard. Yes, tell us about the beard! Movie Beard. I have quite a story about him that happened in year 12. We're getting there. Okay, still buckled in, still rolling with the punches. We did also have another friend, Kitty, and she was a story unto herself, but she had nothing to do with Squirrelbeard, so we'll save that for another day as well. She almost broke up my friendship with Beetle and was the kind that would go through the halls meowing and grooming herself. If that's a tale you want told, let me know. Oh, I'm gonna leave that up to the comment section. I don't want to sway anybody. Cat girls everywhere. Anyway, that was most of my year 11. I spent as much time as I could with Beetle, and at school we hung out with our friend group. To be honest, I didn't really hang out with anyone outside of school except for Beetle. I was still very much behind some thick walls after everything that had happened, but Beetle liked having friends, so I went with it. Now, towards the end of year 11 is when things really got real.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
It became clear that our year 12 friends were going to be graduating, which meant that I was about to lose Beetle. It also meant that Marine was about to go into the military. I don't recall all the details surrounding it, but there was some reason in there that meant that he wanted to marry Honey straight away. I'm not sure if there are rights that a wife had that a girlfriend didn't. Yeah, all of them, basically. Girlfriends have no rights. But then you wife her up, you get some extra pay, house off base, stuff like this. I don't think I knew any couples in the military who were, like, happily married, but she'll be with you if that's what you want. I knew why he wanted to marry at one time, but those details have been lost to the sands of time. Anyway, Honey, still in year 11, agreed to marry Marine. Yeah, is that a good idea, though? Maybe finish high school first. Our whole friend group was at the wedding party, and I can honestly say I never expected to be 17 years old standing up with a friend at her wedding. It was surreal, and I still feel that surrealness when I look back at the photos, but it happened, and no, it didn't last. Yeah, kind of called it. It never lasts. I don't know why it doesn't work out. Actually, I do. It's because you're not married to your spouse. You're married to Uncle Sam, all right? 10 years later, Marine told Honey that he never loved her and had been cheating on her, and then he left. Yeah, there's probably more to that story, I'm sure, but in another timeline, I suppose. The next event was Beetle's graduation, after which he went back to his home state, and I was alone. I was scared. I'd never had a best friend, and now I was losing him. And I was losing the one person that made me feel safe at home. All the while, I had an ongoing online relationship with Squirrelbeard. I later found out that he actually had a real-life girlfriend at this time over in Cityville, but I had no idea at this point. Something else that he failed to tell me. Yeah, that's lying by omission, isn't it? Super weird. Super scandalous. It's what I'd expect from Squirrelbeard, I guess. This brings us to the summer between years 11 and 12, in which I finally grew some nuts and moved back in with mom and dad. I don't know why you moved out in the first place, is it? You see, since I'd moved back in with biological father, my relationship with mom had been strained, and I honestly thought she wouldn't want me back. I was also too scared to tell biological father I wanted to move out because I didn't know what he would do to me. After losing Beetle, something in me just snapped. I could not go back to that with no safety buffer. So I finally spent some time with my mom that summer. I slowly started moving more and more stuff over. Right before school started, I had to tell biological father I was moving out, and he took it, well, about as well as could be expected. I think that means not well. You think I'm a bloody idiot, OP? You think I didn't notice you moving all your stuff over the summer? He screamed. I'm sorry, I said, through tears, in a very timid voice. If you think I'm just gonna let you go and leave you be like your mother did, you're mistaken. Do you understand me? He growled. I nodded. Yeah, but you can't make me stay. I spoke so softly that I'm surprised that he could hear me. Get out! This isn't over! Those are two conflicting statements, aren't they? I believe that means it is over. I'll be filing the restraining order next week. Good luck with whatever you're doing over here. Unfortunately, he didn't mean that, but again, that's a tale for another time. Honestly, pretty big step, standing up to somebody who has treated you in such a way. You might not have said it with your chest, but you said it, and I think that's good. And now, dear reader, we hit year 12. And once again, I tried to go back to being a creature of solitude. This was not to be, however. Honey was still around, and she was lonely with Marine gone, so she clung to me. We also invited Raven, a girl that I'd known since primary school and was in English class with me, to hang out with us. Raven was different than us, but she was also lonely, and the three of us found a kinship in our loneliness. That's right, let's go and be lonely together. It do be like that sometimes. We were never nearly as close as I had been with Beetle. I could never have a friend that I trusted that much again, but it was still nice to not be completely alone. Yep, human social creature, no matter how much you don't want to be, that's just how it is. Fast forward a few months to our autumn dance. Marine was coming back to take Honey, and I did not have a date because I had no one on my radar thanks to my obsession with Squirrelbeard. Honey wanted us to go as a group, and she didn't want me to be the third wheel, so she said she'd get me a date, and I did not know she meant a date with Movie Beard. Yes, bring the beard in, please. I need some cringe that just isn't from like feels and a bad home environment, okay? Please. I gag just thinking about this dude. He was shorter than me. Most guys are, so I don't hold that against him, but he also smelt terrible. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was foul. Foul! What a great word. Oh, how foul! He met me at the dance, and he looked very pleased with how I looked. I don't remember what I was wearing, but I know it had to be nice. I had so many fancy dresses I could only wear once from being biological father's trophy daughter. God forbid I get seen in the same dress at two different events. Sigh. Seems like a weird flex, but okay. He did put you through some stuff, you know, but I guess he thought possessions could fill the hole in your heart or something like that. I don't know, man. As a parent, I'm sort of defensive of parents that are painted to be bad because really we're just doing the best we can. You know, we're also humans. He obviously didn't mean to actively destroy the relationship with his daughter. And then Step Monster doesn't get no love, but she did kind of help OP out in the earlier section by like forcing her back into the car. Kind of like a weird old school way to deal with trauma, you know, but it seems to have worked out, I guess. OP drives. I just don't know, man. It all hits a little weird for me, but I guess that's because it's completely outside my frame of reference. OP is telling me how it is. She didn't like having so many fancy dresses, all right? Anyway, from the get-go, Movie Beard gave me creepy vibes, but I didn't want to be rude, so when he asked me to slow dance, I did. And it was awkward. He tried to hold me close, but was just so awkward about it, and I was trying to keep my head turned to get some fresh air. His hands were all clammy, and they felt weird and gross. This date is a disaster, but I'm glad for some of that neckbeard cringe. This was the only dance that I gave him. Not long after I made a comment about the dance being lame and wanting to get out of there, Marine invited us all to dinner at a nearby Italian restaurant, his treat, because now Big Marine had real adult money to show off. Yeah, I love that first paycheck. Living at home, you're like, oh, I got so much money. And then you start living on your own, you're like, I have nothing. How did this happen? I could tell Honey wanted me to be there, so I agreed. And we ended up in a booth, and I ended up next to Movie Beard. There's no escape. Dinner is mostly a blur because I was so busy trying to figure a way out and wishing that it had been Squirrelbeard next to me. Yeah, that would have fixed the whole situation, I'm sure. After dinner, Marine and Honey headed out, and Movie Beard volunteered me to drive him home. Yeah, no, go catch a cab. I didn't know why he did that. I mean, okay, I know exactly why he did that, but I don't know why I agreed. I didn't want to, but again, I didn't want to be rude. Rip up that social contract. It ain't helping, okay? He asked me for my keys, and I froze. What? I asked. I want to drive. I like your car, he said. No. What? No. I still had my red sports car at the time. I don't let anyone drive my car but me. Oh, come on, please. It's a beautiful car. Please, he begged. And that's about the point when you say, do you not speak English? I just said no. But OP does capitulates and sighs and says, fine. And so Movie Beard drove us to a parking lot, a freaking empty parking lot. Ew. Oh, dude. That's not good. I was not happy. I have to get home. My curfew's soon, I lied. Oh, okay. I can have a friend come and get me from here, he said. I'm not sure why he didn't want me to see his house, but at this point I did not care. He was getting close to me and I hopped out of the car. Jesus, dude. What did he think was gonna happen in this empty parking lot? You smell. The date did not go halfway well. Can you not read the signs? I should really go. Thanks for going with me to the dance, I sputtered as I tried to get back around to the driver's seat after he got out. He stopped me and leaned in. Oh, God. I knew he was about to kiss me. I had never been kissed, and this was not how I wanted it to go down. For starters, I wanted my first kiss to be with Squirrelbeard, and that is a story that we're getting to. For another, Movie Beard was just slimy, and he smelt awful. As he leaned in to kiss me, I leaned off to the side and patted his shoulder. Okay, see you later. The dodge tactic, absolutely beautiful. I said as I got into the driver's seat and drove away at lightning speed. Yeah, punch that gas. I did have another date with Movie Beard after that. I did see him in college a couple of times, and he glared at me when he would see me talking to other guys, and I saw him once at the movie theater before I left my hometown behind. Last I checked, which was fairly recent, he still works at the movie theater. I mean, part of me wants to say that's sad, but yeah, maybe he enjoys it. Maybe the biggest benefit is the best benefit. He's like, free movies for life, no big deal. Maybe he's just not motivated to get up and out. I don't know. I feel bad judging the guy for what he does for a job just because obviously he's been doing the job pretty good. He's been there for 20 years, right? So honestly, I do hope the best for him. I hope he gets all cleaned up, got that first kiss, first consensual kiss, thank you. And yeah, he ain't all that bad, just awkward a little bit. It's high school, what do you want? So the rest of that year went fairly smoothly. By the time prom rolled around, I wanted to ensure that I did not get set up with Movie Beard again, so I asked Squirrelbeard if he would come to town and take me to prom, which he said he would, and then a few days later he said that he would see, and then just before the dance he said that he couldn't. Oh my god, what a loser. Already, Squirrelbeard, obviously worse than Movie Beard, right? If you're nothing else in life, at least be a man of your word, for God's sake. So yes, OP was sad and decided to forego prom. It's okay though. Beetle and I are high school teachers now, and he has since taken me to prom because it was really him who I should have asked to start with. Facts. This brings us to graduation. Beetle came back to watch me graduate and spent an entire month with me. We had some great adventures that involved a Poison concert, adult toy stores, and jamming out to Avril Lavigne. It was one of the best summers of my life, and it cemented Beetle and I as eternal besties. Even distance couldn't dilute our bond. I mean, do you think he's really out here with like ulterior motives? Do you think he's really out here just trying to be besties? Maybe he is. I've been poisoned by nice guy stories and stuff like this, so I always think that people have ulterior motives. I'd be interested to know what the comments section thinks. So all this brings us to the college years, in which we see Squirrelbeard really re-enter the tale because I decided that I just had to see him again for some reason. My heart could no longer take the distance, and now I was an adult and no one could stop me. Yeah, no one can stop you from making your own mistakes. That much is true. But you learned, you grew. I guess that's really the goal, isn't it? I know this story was long and limited in antics from Squirrelbeard, or Movie Beard for that matter. It was mostly backstory. Again, we are setting up the backstory so you understand how I felt when I saw him again. Also, so you know how Beetle fits in, and during the writing of this, Beetle reminded me about Movie Beard, and I cringed, recalling how my life has not been beard-free at all. I don't know if Movie Beard was actually a beard. Okay, whatever. We'll talk about it at the conclusion, right? Stay tuned for part 4, in which I realize Squirrelbeard is indeed a human squirrel, and I end up giving my first a bluey before I even get my first kiss. Cringe alert. Wow, dude, that's horrible. That is some of the most disrespectful stuff I think I've ever heard. God, what a trash human being. So yeah, part 4 is the rise of Squirrelbeard. TLDR for this part, OP finishes high school, makes a true best friend, but continues to converse with Squirrelbeard all the while because I guess she's an idiot or something. Her words, not mine. So yeah, like I was saying, I don't really think that Movie Beard was all that bad. Yeah, he's stinky, kind of awkward. He's pretty bad, actually. Drove into an abandoned parking lot because of his expectations. I can't go to bat for either of these beards. Jesus, dude. At least he let you get away scot-free, you know? He's like, okay, take your car, leave me in an abandoned parking lot. Like, okay, I will. You were supposed to just drive us home. There were no stopovers on the itinerary, Movie Beard. But somehow I think that Squirrelbeard is still even worse because he ain't letting OP get away scot-free. Part 4 could be ugly, but we're gonna dive into it eventually. I hope that you guys will be here for that. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. You know, share the video around. We got links in the description. Plugs, playlist, podcast, Twitter, Discord, Facebook, Twitch, all kinds of stuff going on. I'd also like to thank my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous channel members and Patreon patrons, as I do every episode, very much. So thank you too. A Tiny Boy, Amelia Hannon, Sean Cantwell, Johnny Doors, Train Boy, That One Gay Cop, Valiant Crane, Sheeza, Angel Dark, Bedazzled Misery, Skylar Rain, The Fez Wearer, Rosie Rainbow, Heaven Sent, Robert Thibodeau, Jackie McQuitty, Grim Strive, AJ Colin, Tooth Plushy, Corey Arts, Kelly Clark, Florentic Waver, Dungeon Bat, Billy D, Robert Waits, Brandon Ashcraft, Phantom Danica, Wargaming Steve, Skylar Morningstar, The Gypsy Barber, Fire Drake, Samantha, Death's Flagship, and buy two, get one hand. From Patreon, Glorious Maximus, oh, that's a new one. Holly Hohen, Robert Waits, Camille Sarah, Vixie, Ellipses, Captain Cloud, Jerry, Deku, Esteban, Wargaming Steve, Pete Tom, with Back Mouse, Downtown, with Jerry, Back for Forgiveness, he sure did. PCB, Santa Jerry, Silent Revolver, A Very Tired Jerry, Justy Jargoni Jerry, Aaron Jerry, and Frankenberry, Ain't That a Hot Bitch Though, Assassin Bug Jerry, Baby Jerry, Bailey Joy, Benji and the Jets, Billy D, Bitch Gremlin, Blade the Hero, Bronze Kraken, Chase the Blue Kraken, oh, those two different Krakens right there. Commander JT, Comrade Moody, Destiny Piper, Dr. Larks, Yal, Aaron Arrow, Erratic Mechanic, E-Sparks, Rose Over Studios, Fire Drake, Gizmo Jack, Adrian BR, Irish Pirate, Lust the Blue Marmalade of Mutiny, Iron Knowledge, J.M. Coon, Jerry Smith, Jerry Kisune, the original Jerry, Jerry Blacktail, Jerry Flips the Jerry, make my name longer so ReddX speeds up the Patreon list even more. It's gonna happen. Jerry the Outlaw, the Trugger, Hong Kong, Jerry, I'm begging you, please don't take my beard. Jukebox Jerry, Cage Alex 9, Kira, Crewheat, Cuddly Kraken, Lady Italian Greyhound Dino, Lady in Awakening, Lauren Crow, Legit Maker, Lord Jerry, leader of the Thunder Jerrys, Luke X was a race car driver, he was a good friend of mine, never did win that chicken flag, but I helped drink his wine, like and subscribe. Milady Dix, Melgar, the Destroyer, Metal Factor, I'm here because my cringe senses are tingling. Yeah, it worked out today, huh? Miss Black, Needless King 89, not another Jerry, but he is though. Farrakhan Soul, Phantom of the Pines, Jerry Kins and Jerry Beth, Queen's Quaaludes and Quagmires, Ramtide, Lackermates, Redwin, Rose, Jerry Miller, Sarita the Lolita, Scarlet's Coven, Sergeant Gay Cop, Bringer of the Law, Silo Imp, 70 Gunner, Synaptic Boomstick, Brilliant Tomago, the Gypsy Barber, the Lilith Who, oh, Trufusky, this isn't even my final beard. Tick Jerry, trying to find another ball to get back to the real world. Vanguard Angel, BC3, Viking Jerry, Vladimir Dragonov, Wiki Tag, Zephyr Gargoyle, or Clay, One Leg Jerry has returned from battle, a normal Jerry, alright, Red, for you I bring Doritos, but I can't your expertise of their Drake Beards, Admiral T-Tank, Amber Alder, another stupid hipster, Atomic Jerry, Zella, Breaker of the Tom Army, Bad Penny Lane, Bartender Kelia, Big Dad Wolf, Broke Spine, Horseradish, Cake Jerry, that's a different Jerry, Cowabunga Jerry Girl, Carcass, Chicago Panda, Corey does commissions now, Cowabunga Jerry, Crypt Titties, Defon Jerry, Defter Tuna, Dilf Jerry, Dwarf Dude, Fedorable Jerry, just tip the lady, ooh woo. I always do. Get to at the Doodles commissions also open. Jerry Boo's daughter, Ghost of Alpha, Greymon 365, Half Slavic Jerry in a tracksuit. Eeknot, Hydra Jerry Solomon, Jace Christensen, Janitor Jerry's back from the abyss to clean up after the teenage beards. Good luck. Jeffrey, Geralt of Arabia, Jerry in the Grizz Machine, aka Roxanne Wolfsip Jerry, Jerry Boat 2 S's and E, that's Jesse, Jerry Springer, the results are in. You are not the neckbeard. Jerry the Sussy Baka, Jerry's mom has got it going on. Check out her mustache on Jerry Oldo Rivera, Jerry Roxers, Jerry Roleplay again, Kim Marvelous, Kitsakin, Machiacidi, maybe next time, Miss Duchess, Mr. Gasmas, not a Viper, not a Visible Angel, Raptor, Art, Selden Dark, Snary, that's Snom, Jerry, Spoonie the Rogue, Spoopy, Scary, Jerry Ton, Techno Dubs, they call me Jerry Two Knives, Jerry Pie, Third Stuff, this is purely a mercantile transaction. Yeah, that's pretty true. To Infinite Jerry and beyond. Tokyo Bird, Unkale, Vaughn, Venom Jerry, 2 Liter Mountain Dew, Grow by Neckbeard, Grow. It's Jerry time, holds ReddX Morpher. Hygiene, it's Jerry time, holds ReddX Morpher. Humility, and thank you to my $1 patrons as well. Bless up all the Jerrys and not Jerrys alike. You guys really doing the most to help me get through, you know? If you can afford to support alongside these lovely people, that's huge. If you can't, don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope that you'll come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow. In order to do so, you need to keep yourself safe out there. Wash your hands, but also take some time out. Do something you personally enjoy, like watching some more ReddX videos. You do enjoy that, don't you? Always remember, friends, that you are loved. You are worthy. You definitely deserve it. And I shall see you in the next one. So until then, friends, bye-bye.